I'm Sarah Thomas, and I'm Chair of the Manor House Trust. And this short presentation just looks back over the last couple of years at what we've been doing and how we've been working with what have been quite extraordinary circumstances for all of us. This first slide is about how we responded to the initial lockdown in 2020, when we developed a programme called Inside Out, where we pivoted the offer we made to our visitors and the public by using the outside space as much as we could. One of the first things we did was to erect our first outdoor exhibition using the wonderful photographs by C.H. Woods of the aerial photographs of Ilkley. We then moved forward to Christmas 2020, when, as we all can remember, we were not able to see our family and friends. And so we did an installation in the house called Peeping In, where we asked the community to make paper snowflakes, which they did, and we had something in the order of 2,000 paper snowflakes in the house in the heritage room, and we had a wonderful light animated installation in the house body. We reopened in July 21, slightly later than we were permitted to, but we wanted to make sure that when we reopened the Manor House, we could stay open. Our volunteers would feel comfortable about coming in again and volunteering. So we reopened in July with the Ilkley Lockdown Quilt, which was a community project which had actually been started in 2020. It proved very successful, and the banners themselves then went on tour, initially to Halifax Minster, and here they are in Halifax, and then to the Knitting and Stitching show in Harrogate, where hundreds of people came to look at them, and I think found them very moving and reminded everyone of what that time was like. This is a word cloud created from all the comments made during the exhibition, and I think you can sense how well received it was, and a real piece of social history. We had our first full wedding in the house in August 2021. We'd been licensed as a wedding venue literally just before lockdown. And so this was the first wedding we were able to hold, which was a fantastic success. And they had a wonderful day in the house with a full 3-course sit-down hot meal for 60 in the Western Gallery, which I have to say, I think was an amazing feat by the catering company. We held a Christmas fair that year, slightly smaller than normal, but still a very lovely event. And certainly our visitors really enjoyed coming back into the house to shop with some of the wonderful work made by local makers. We did another Christmas installation in 2021, and we created the Manor House Advent Calendar. The house then closed. We undertook some important maintenance work, particularly on the window mullions in the house, which had been seriously degrading over the years. We're lucky enough to receive a grant which allowed us to remove the paint from all the stone mullions in the house, which is what's been done now. And further down the road, we will look at how we can repair or stabilise the stone where it has degraded. We also received the first ever Arts Council grant to bring power and light to the courtyard for performances, which we'd found during Inside Out had been such a boon to us to have that outside space. So we wanted to make the most of it. During lockdown, we also worked hard to continue to support our volunteers. We were successful in achieving the quality mark from Bradford Council for the work we do with our volunteers. We also did some rebranding for our volunteers. Most significantly, at the start of 22 was the moving of the replica Verbeer stone from Langbar, and also moving the Roman Verbeer altar stone, which was in a very inauspicious position in the manor house. So we moved both stones into a new setting in the heritage room, and we were delighted that Alan Titchmarsh came to the house in February of this year to unveil the new installation. And in this image is Alex Cockshott, obviously Alan Titchmarsh, and John Cockshott and Dr. Adam White, all of whom had played an integral role in allowing this new installation to be created. The beginning of this year also saw the appointment of our 2 visitor engagement leads, Kay Ip and Alex Wild, both of whom joined the team and have been an incredible asset to the Manor House. It also meant the Trust, for the first time, was an employer with all that entailed. We launched at the same time the Ilkley Manor House Supporters Scheme. The Friends of the Manor House had been stood down earlier in the year, and so we then took over as the Trust running the Supporters Scheme. And here's Alan Titchmarsh signing as the first supporter of that new scheme. And more work will be done on the Supporters Scheme in 2023. Just a few other highlights of this year. We had some new interpretation boards created. We ran a makers fair in the summer, and we also had a Bard in the Yard event in summer this year as well, both of which were incredibly successful and very well received by the public. The major exhibition in the autumn of this year was the Dorothy Bradford exhibition, with over 1,700 visitors coming to see her wonderful work. Dorothy lived in Ilkley in the 1960s and had been instrumental in helping the Manor House become a museum and art gallery. And so it felt very fitting that her family asked that her work was displayed in the Manor House. We launched a new venture in October of this year, which was the Creative Quarter event, held over 3 days, where we worked with existing creative spaces and asked them to promote themselves actively over these 3 days. It certainly increased footfall for those businesses, and so we're looking at what we might do in 2023 along those lines. We were fortunate enough to receive a grant from Museum Development Yorkshire to undertake an audit by the national organisation Kids in Museums, just to look at how we could become more family friendly. And we were also very fortunate to be chosen as one of the Tesco's community grant schemes, which is actually in Tesco's at the moment. And so if you do shop in Tesco's, do make sure you put your blue tokens in our bucket. Another key development during the year has been a decision to work more closely with Ilkley Arts. We are now starting to share resources between the two organisations, and members of Ilkley Arts are joining some of our programming meetings and vice versa, so that there'll be a more integrated approach across Ilkley Arts and the Manor House, which both organisations feel is a fantastic development. Probably one of the major elements for next year is looking at the interpretation plan for the Manor House. So the board have been working to define what it is, what is the story we want to tell. And the focus of the story will be about the Manor House itself, the land it sits on, with obviously the Roman fort Olicana, but also the town that it sits within. And we feel we've got quite a lot of content. We understand more about the audience we're trying to connect with. The piece of work we now need to spend time on is determining how we tell that story. And that is going to be the focus for funding bids and the work we do next year in the House. So what's our financial health like as an organisation? We certainly received resilience grants during the COVID period, which have been enormously helpful, allowing us to continue to employ our staff and keep the activities running as we've been able to. The income from our tenants remains vital to the Manor House, and we've been very fortunate that we've lost very, very few tenants during the lockdown period and post-lockdown, and they remain, as I say, a very vital element to our income stream. We've had 5 full weddings now, plus a celebration in the house, all again, which bring us very important income to the house. Obviously, electricity costs, as for all of us, are a major concern, and we're constantly looking at ways that we can reduce our energy usage, not only from a cost point of view, but also to reduce our carbon footprint. So what have we learned from these last 3 years? I think it's about being fleet of foot, taking some risks, being flexible, recognizing when we can do things differently and responding to these new circumstances, and just not being afraid to try new things. And as I say, probably for us now, the focus will need to be on the story of the house, the land it sits on and the town it sits within in a more creative way. So we can really engage with our visitors, both of all ages, about this important asset to the town. So thank you for listening. And if you do have any questions, please do email them to me at the email address on the screen, and I will do my best to answer them. And if I don't see you before, I wish you all a very happy Christmas and a peaceful and healthy 2023.